ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. I've watched a lot of wrestling in my day. I've never got to see a Jim Crockett Promotions show until tonight. Jim Crockett Promotions presents Ric Flair's last match on Fight TV. It was an interesting night. No, I mean, seriously, there were some freaking awesome matches. We talked about the Forbidden Door of New Japan and AEW. We talked about All In being the original Forbidden Door. Oh, hell no, people. Those shows have nothing on this show when it comes to the Forbidden Door. All wrestling promotions working together. We had people from Major League Wrestling, New Japan, Game Changer Wrestling, NWA, OVW, Progress Wrestling, Revovlver, AAA, USWA, Impact, DDT, Ring of Honor, AEW. You had an active WWE. There was a referee last night at SummerSlam, Jeff Jarrett, in this match. You had WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley and The Undertaker at ringside. It's just the most wow match ever. Main event, Ric Flair teaming up with his son-in-law Andrade El Elio versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. We're going to start there. Was it the best technical match in the history of wrestling? Oh, hell no. It was a spectacle. It was what it's supposed to be. Ric Flair's send-off, We thought in 2008, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, we thought that was going to be the send-off. Rick did come back, Impact Wrestling, and some other stuff. But this is the send-off for the 73-year-old two-time Hall of Famer, one of the greatest performers in professional wrestling history. It's kind of fitting, Jeff Jarrett, because at one point Jeff Jarrett, for a short time, was a member of the Four Horsemen in WCW. There was talk at one time of Jeff Jarrett kind of being the next Ric Flair. He stole the figure 4 from him. He stole the strut from him, the blonde hair, everything. We all know in TNA, Jay Lethal had the woo down and the woo off between Rick and Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal was the Black Machismo. We remember all that stuff. Having Rick versus and teaming up with the son-in-law. And then his other son-in-law, which I did not know was his son-in-law, Conrad Thompson, putting on the show with StarCast, and the whole family at ringside. It was really, really kind of cool. Rick got busted open like he always did. Kind of the standard Ric Flair moves. He took some bumps, but obviously he made it through it. Not a bad show. That match, I give it 3-star. It was a spectacle. Let's go back to the beginning. We had the first match of the card was Ren Narita, Yuya Uemura from New Japan Pro Wrestling, kicking off the pre-show. Quick little 5-minute match. I ended up giving it like 3 stars. It was a good little match. Watching both these young lions as they progress in their career. And next up we had the Bunkhouse Brawl. These are on the pre-show. Now, last night on Game Changer Wrestling, we know that Nick Gage came out, called out Conrad Thompson, who was in attendance, about Game Changer not having a match at this show. And so he said that if they weren't going to have a match, Game Changer Wrestling that is, they were going to do an invasion. They're going to invade. They're going to be there regardless of what happens. So we had the Game Changer Wrestling, where I wore the shirt, invasion. Like I said, Nick Gage announces on the People vs. GCW. So that we had Mance Warner, one called Manders. Who else was in there? Matthew Justice, Jordan Oliver, Ricky Shane Page, Blake Christian, Joey Janela. They all invaded on the Bunkhouse Battle Royal. Bully Ray was one of the last standing. The last two was Mance Warner and Bully Ray. Mance Warner got the victory representing Game Changer Wrestling. I thought that was really cool. Nick Gage out there. Pretty neat how they just kind of invaded this and kind of took over. Now, when the main show started, we had Impact Wrestling Dream Tag Team match. We had the Motor City Machine Guns versus the American Wolves, or the Wolves. Davey Richards, currently MLW national champion. But here he was teaming up with his old friend Eddie Edwards, part of the Wolves. Yeah, 2 tag teams that, if it wasn't for these 2 tag teams, what we look at tag team wrestling today, like the Young Bucks and that kind of, these guys is what kind of made that style relevant. Machine Guns, high flying, all that. You know, the Hardy Boys did stuff back in the late 90s, early 2000s. You had kind of the transition into the Motor City Machine Guns that kind of took that style and kind of twisted it a little bit, which kind of came into what the Young Bucks are and what we see today. Wolves out there just back together again, hopefully forever, but we probably won't be. Machine Guns getting the victory there. I give it 4-star. Next up, we had a couple MLW stars. Davey Boy Smith, third generation wrestler. He is the grandson of Stu Hart, the son of Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy Smith Jr. versus Killer Kross, a couple MLW stars, a couple people that also were released by WWE. Nice little basically a hoss fight almost. Killer Kross getting the victory. I give it 3-star. Next up, we had a fatal 4-way Lucha Rules, which basically means no tags. If somebody goes out of the ring, somebody else can come in. Number 1 contender for the Progress title. In Progress Wrestling, Chapter 134, we had Jonathan Gresham had the title, Progress World Championship. He was stripped because of outside interference by Lycos Jim. Well, they crowned a new Progress World Heavyweight Champion at the strong style shows they had. They had 3 strong style shows, and let me pull that up here, which I haven't watched yet, so I didn't even realize they had crowned a new world champion during that, but they did. And so I still gotta watch those 3 shows, but yeah, so we have a new Progress champion. So this match was for the number 1 contender. We had Jonathan Gresham versus Takeshita. Konosuke Takeshita. We've seen him around the U.S. here lately with AEW and some other promotions. And going up against Ellen Angels and then Nick Wayne. This was a great, 4-way. Get Nick Wayne, 17-year-old kid. This kid is young and talented and stuff, flying around everywhere. And you had Jonathan Gresham, the mat-based wrestler, former Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, getting the victory there. I ended up giving it 3 3/4 star. Next up, we had AEW versus NWA almost. Basically, it was the Ricky Morton, who of Rock and Roll Express, him and his son Kerry Morton teaming up versus a couple second-generation stars, Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson. Brock Anderson, the son of Arn Anderson. Brian Pillman Jr., the son of Brian Pillman, the loose cannon, former member of the 4 Horsemen. Weird. And so it was a nice little match. When Pillman Jr. came out, I actually texted the Pulse Boys and was like, does he not look like his dad right now? He looks so much like freaking Brian Pillman Sr. at that moment when he first came out. All right, and then Pelman Jr. and Anderson got the victory on that, 3-star. Next up, we had a 4-way Lucha Libre style match representing stars from Ring of Honor, AEW, and AAA. We had Bandido, Fenix, Black Taurus, and Laredo Kid. Yeah, this is the style match that I'm just like, okay, that's the Lucha Libre style, the Cruiserweight style, the X Division style, whatever you want to call it, that I've always enjoyed. Kind of my favorite part of wrestling. This match did not let me down at all. I was just engaged the entire time. When you get these luchadors just flying around, I love having people that don't like this style or don't get this style watching it. David Crockett, for instance, obviously the son of Jim Crockett. This is not his cup of tea. He didn't have this back when Jim Crockett Promotions in the 80s. And just him and Tony Schiavone on commentary was hilarious because you could just almost see the look on his face. He's like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, they were doing planches, this, that. I mean, we need Excalibur to call this match. I mean, I will say Tony Schiavone's been learning from Excalibur. But yeah, I mean, just flying everywhere. Fenix ended up getting the victory here. I give it 4 3/4. If it would have been 20 minutes long, I probably would have given 5. But yeah, it's kind of one of those matches. It's like, okay, it's all good. Next up, we had the Impact World Heavyweight title line. We had Jacob Fatu versus Josh Alexander. Impact Wrestling versus MLW. This was kind of the pickup of the hostile fighting that Davey Boy Smith and Killer Cross had. But Jacob Fatu, being part of the Hanoi family, Roman Reigns, The Rock, he's got that, Umaga style of wrestling to him. And he's even talked about Uncle Eddie, Umaga. Him and the Usos doing flips and stuff into the pool. He started doing a backflip, he said. That's where he learned it from. And he does it in the ring. And he's an amazing athlete. He's to the caliber, if you ask me, of his cousins, the Usos. I love how these family talk. Everybody calls everybody Us. It's like awesome. But yeah, this match with Josh Alexander was freaking awesome. I was at 3.5 on it, and it got DQ'd because the major players, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, came in with their mouthpiece. Smart Mark Sterling interrupted the match. It looks like Matt Cardona his arm is better. He didn't have cast or any brace on anything. He's been hurt for a while, so we'll see what happens in NWA with him. But the bright spot of this was we got one more Diamond Cutter. DDP comes to the ringside, comes out through the crowd, just sitting down for a second, climbed the ring, jumped in there. Boom, Diamond Cutter on Matt Cardona. Self high five Diamond Cutter one more time. I loved it. This show was all just, to me, was a WCW feel. I guess because the Jim Crockett set reminds me of WCW Saturday Night, Tony Schiavone, some of the legends, Ric Flair, Jeff Jarrett, DDP. It's kind of that WCW feel to me, which kind of takes me back to when I first started watching wrestling in 1996. Next up, we had one of the greatest tag teams of all time, the Briscoes, Mark and Jay Briscoe, versus third generation, the Von Erichs, Ross and Marshall of MLW, probably the greatest tag team in MLW history. But yeah, this was a great little match, watching the Briscoes go up against the Von Erichs. We know the Von Erich name has been huge in professional wrestling. But yeah, the Briscoes getting the victory there. I give it 3.25. And then our sub-main event was the Impact Knockout title, triple threat match, Deonna Purrazzo, Rachel Ellering, and Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace defending her title. Again, one of those you kind of knew the title wasn't going to change hands, but it was a really good women's match. Rachel Ellering hurt her ankles early on, like the first 15 seconds of the match, or first minute or so of the match. She did some move, and she got her ankle caught and kind of bent it weird. She looked to be okay later. Nice little match. Jordynne Grace got the victory. I did give it 3.25. But overall, great show. Definitely glad I got it. One of those shows. There was so many different wrestling companies involved. Again, this was probably the ultimate Forbidden Door we've had. And it wasn't like people were just doing kind of titsy-totsy, but it was like people were going all out. This Lucha Libre match, 4 3/4-star match, 4-star match between the Machine Guns and the Wolves. The Progress #1 Contender match was 3 3/4. You had some great bouts here, great matches. Just the world of professional wrestling right now in 2022. I think it's probably the hottest it's ever been, in my opinion, especially independent wrestling. You've heard me talk on here about Game Changer Wrestling a lot, AEW, all the independent wrestling that I watch. I can't wait till next year. I got a lot of stuff planned early next year. Well, hopefully that comes true. I get to do what I want to do with that. But that's going to wrap up Jim Crockett Promotions, Ric Flair's last match review. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show, and don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports channel content.